The movie begins with police cars. In one of the cars, there's a criminal and a female police officer named Helen next to him. She notices that the criminal seems confused and nervous. So she asks the car to stop by the side of the road and removes the covering on the criminal's face. She tries to comfort him by talking to him and reassures him that nothing bad will happen to him. When she feels the boy is no longer anxious, she reports they can continue their journey to the court. When they arrive at the court, there are journalists and citizens waiting for them. One citizen tries to approach the police car, but the police quickly stop him and ask him to leave. Hella tries to protect the fugitive from reaching the court, but someone shoots the fugitive in the head, and he dies on the spot. In the detention cell, another person wakes up because of the noise. He's a prisoner, and he can be seen going about his daily activities in the prison, waking up early and going to the field. While playing chess, he sees a group of prisoners bothering another prisoner. At first, he ignores it, but then he approaches them and invites the bullied prisoner to play chess. Both of them go to the chess table, and the man named Zaid advises the young prisoner to follow the prison rules so that he can stay safe. When the young man asks if anyone is waiting for him outside, Zaid doesn't answer, but encourages him to continue playing chess. Later in the evening, Zaid sits down to make a bird from paper. On his desk, there is a picture of a little boy named Noah. The warden tells him that his father is visiting, but it turns out to be Hella. She asks if he knows Mutter, who is the leader of the gangsters recruiting young boys. He says he doesn't know him and wonders why she is asking. She replies she wants to stop Mutter's actions and makes an offer to him. She suggests he infiltrate Mutter's gang, and if he succeeds, the police will release him. However, he doesn't answer her offer and mentions the shooting in front of the court and how she has lost the young man. She asks if he wants a normal life like before and how much longer he will miss living with his son, Noah. Without answering the question, he stands up and returns to his cell. He writes a letter to Noah, wishing him a happy birthday, but he decides not to send it. Instead, he chooses to sleep. However, in the middle of his sleep, the warden wakes him up and invites him to move to a different prison cell. He finds himself in the gangster's cell and wonders why he is moved. The warden doesn't provide an answer. In the cell, he sees the bird-shaped paper he made and realizes he is transferred to the gangster's cell for a special mission. In the morning, he is surprised when a group of prisoners enter his room. They take down a picture of his son that was on the wall, making fun of whether Noah is a girl or a boy. Zaid gets upset when they mock the picture and ends up hitting one of the prisoners, and the gang eventually leave. At night, he tries to call Noah to wish him happy birthday, but Noah refuses to answer the call. The next morning, Hella visits Zaid in his prison cell. He tells her if he agrees to the mission, he wants his life back the way it used to be. She appears pleased with his response and shows him a parole letter she has prepared. He could be free once he completes this mission. She explains how he can infiltrate the gang led by Mutter through a deal, but he has to earn their trust first. One day, Zaid takes action. He confronts and fights a gangster in the prison yard. The next day, he is asked to meet with a person. Zaid and Adil discuss what happened the day before, when Zaid got into a fight. He realizes Adil holds influence in the prison, but he mentions having good relationships with some of the guards, and they decide to work together. Zaid receives an order to confront a young man from the area, the son of a prostitute, held in cell 157. Zaid walks with Adil and his group to meet the young man in cell 157. To his surprise, it is the same young man he had played chess with. Afterwards, he is released from prison. He goes to a tall building and asks a young man named Diddy for directions to the 23rd floor. This building is where Zaid lived. After taking in some fresh air on his balcony, he goes to an exhibition and meets Stein, who works there. Zaid congratulates her on her pregnancy. However, she didn't expect him to be free and didn't feel ready to see him. They argue, but Zaid is determined to see his son. Eventually, Stein allows Zaid to watch Noah practice soccer. As night falls, Zaid receives a call from Jimmy, who asks him to meet outside the building. He gets into a car, but suddenly, Jimmy stops the car and someone grabs Zaid's neck from behind. Jimmy explains that he will be keeping an eye on him because he knows that Zaid was a doctor. He also questions Zaid's intentions with Adil and his group. After this encounter, Zaid is dropped off in the middle of the road. The next day, Zaid meets Hella at an exhibition. He informs her about Jimmy, who will keep watching him. Hella provides Zaid with a microphone and GPS device to gather information about Mutter. She assures him that only they know about this plan, and the police will believe Zaid is part of the gang. At nightfall, Jimmy picks up Zaid and brings him to a location. Before entering the room, Jimmy checks Zaid's belongings. Inside the room are Mutter and his group. Zaid is instructed to perform surgery on an injured person. He requests everyone to leave the room for a peaceful operation.
You're fucking sucked.
Jimmy.
Jimmy is unhappy about this, but Mutter orders his men to exit as per request. However, Mutter wants to stay in the room because the injured person is his brother Nazhar. Zaid succeeds in removing a bullet from Nasher's lung. The next morning, Zaid visits Stein's house with the hope of meeting his son. Unfortunately, Noah doesn't recognize him. Even so, Zaid remains hopeful. He is welcomed as a guest by Noah, and Zaid invites him to play in the room.
Det her, det hedder et stetoskop, hvor de der dutter peges lidt ud af.
Later, Zaid joins Mutter and his group. They track down the man who had injured Nazhar. Then, they go to their base. Zaid is surprised to find Diddy there, who happens to be his neighbor. Zaid cautiously approaches him and learns that Diddy is a spy working for Mutter, keeping an eye on Zaid's apartment. Zaid is assigned the task of picking up goods at the port. Before leaving, he places a tracking device in Mutter's car. When they reach the port, Jimmy warns Zaid to complete the task correctly and not mess things up. The goods supposed to be handed over to Mutter are stolen by Boba's men, who had also injured Nazhar. Zaid heads to Boba's camp to retrieve the goods. Initially, Boba is reluctant to give them up, but Zaid manages to take them back. He returns to Mutter's camp and informs him about the situation, explaining that Boba had taken the drugs, but he managed to recover them. At first, Mutter is skeptical of Zaid's words, but Zaid eventually convinces him. Zaid even suggests that he can meet Boba at the club, as Boba was in a bad mood. The next day, Zaid meets Noah and Stein on the beach. They have a casual conversation. In the midst of their talk, Noah wonders if Zaid would have to return to prison, or if he can stay there. Zaid replies that he intends to stay. Noah asks what he had done to end up in prison, and Zaid falls silent. After meeting Noah, Zaid goes to the library and gives Hella a voice recording. This recording contains voice messages from the last 14 days when he was with Mutter and his group. For a moment, Zaid reflects on his actions with Mutter, and then tells Hella that Noah asked about the crime that had put him in prison. She reassures that one day, Noah will come to know that his father played a role in stopping the crime. Her explanation eases Zaid's concerns a bit. One evening, Zaid meets with Mutter, who instructs him to join Nazhar and Diddy for a bigger job. They stop at a shop and chat for a while in a car. From a distance, Hella is spying on Zaid. A few minutes later, two men fire at Zaid's car. Luckily, Zaid and Diddy manage to escape, but Nazhar loses his life. They rush into the shop they had visited earlier, and two gangsters follow them. Hella also arrives to help Zaid, who decides to let Diddy leave the shop, and he re-enters to confront the gangsters. To his surprise, he finds Hella inside. While they're talking, Diddy sees them, but pretends not to notice. Zaid and Diddy return to Mutter's camp, and Zaid overhears one of Mutter's men mentioning a GPS attached to Mutter's car. They sense something is amiss when they hear police approaching the scene. Mutter prevents Zaid from leaving, inviting him to a garage-shaped building. Inside, Mutter tortures a man named Racine, suspecting he might have talked to Boba about a drug delivery.
Har du sagt til Boba?
Jeg har ikke sagt det.
Racine admits to the accusation, but denies placing the tracking device in Mutter's car, and the men take Racine away. Zaid meets Hela in the library and confesses to her about the incident with Racine. He feels guilty about it and wants to quit the mission, but Hela firmly tells him quitting will leave him vulnerable to Mutter's reach. The next day, Mutter meets Diddy and inquires about the incident near the supermarket when Nazar was shot. Diddy initially conceals the truth, but later reveals that Zaid met a policewoman who didn't arrest him. Mutter is left speechless. Zaid spends time with Noah at an amusement park, enjoying games and conversations. On their way home, they are shot at by another car, but Zaid manages to escape and drops Noah off at Stein's house. He asks Noah to remember that he loves him, then hugs and kisses him. Upon returning to his apartment, Zaid finds it in disarray, and Noah's picture is missing. He realizes it is Mutter's doing and informs Hela. However, Mutter's men capture him shortly after. Mutter takes him to the place where Racine had been tortured, and then announces his intention to visit Noah and Stein. Zaid begs him not to harm them, and Jimmy prepares to beat Zaid. But Zaid manages to free himself, defeating Jimmy and the other men. He goes to Mutter's headquarters, determined to confront him, but first, he has to face Mutter's men. When he finally reaches Mutter's room, he finds Diddy and some young people there. Mutter shoots Zaid in the leg. Unexpectedly, Diddy turns against Mutter and aims a gun at him. Zaid manages to shoot Mutter to his death. Diddy helps Zaid, and they leave the camp. Zaid sends Diddy home, and he stares at a photo of Noah for a moment. Within minutes, he hears police sirens approaching Mutter's headquarters. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.